Hello and welcome to the Be Your Own podcast. I'm your host, Samana Duran, and founder of Be Your Own, the global media hub of all things entrepreneurship and career navigation. As you know, this podcast is all about highlighting incredible women out there doing awesome things. Today's fabulous guest is Pontine Paus, the founder of Dr. Lipp, the original Nipple Balm. Yes, Nipple Balm. But no, might I add, she had absolutely no idea that this brand was going to be the pillar for a fully fledged multi-use skincare brand and become an absolute revolution in skincare. It all started when she brought the Nipple Balm out of the breastfeeding market and launched it into the beauty market back in 2004. I'm a massive fan of this brand, so I'm really looking forward to chatting to Pontine about her startup journey and her 360 approach towards building a multi-use skincare solution that also aims to reduce the strain on the supply chain by sticking to a maximum of 10 ingredients per formula. Pontine, it's great to have you with us on the Be Your Own podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
We're living in such a great era where suddenly women can go off and do things, and it's just so great that women can then also share their stories and their journeys. And I think what you're doing is it's brilliant, and it gives people courage to start their own things or to bring to life their own ideas. I mean, so many people have got great ideas out there, and the world needs it.
So, where are you based at the moment? Is it London?
I'm based in Switzerland.
No way.
Yes, yeah. I'm up in the mountains, in the high mountains of Verbier.
How are you personally managing?
Well, to be honest, up in Verbier, it's because it's such a small community, we don't notice it as much as you do everywhere else. People are, a bit more relaxed with masks, and obviously everybody's going around with hand sanitizers, but the community is so small, so it's not as hysterical, I'd say, as it is in many other places. And people aren't as full of fear. Maybe that's because they're more used to sort of going off rock climbing and taking chances in life, because they're quite sporty people. But I think when you're in an environment where there's not such a dense intensity of people, it's not so scary. Whilst as soon as you go down to the big cities, where people are much tighter on top of each other, you can really feel that it's everybody's a bit more scared, right? Because you're being contaminated you could be contaminated by all sorts of people without knowing. So it's been a pretty good place to be, actually. Yeah. I'm feeling very blessed.
But am I right in saying that you did live in London?
No, I used to live in London. I grew up in London, and I made the decision to move to the mountains just over 3 years ago. And I absolutely love it. I wanted a lifestyle that was more in tune with nature, more sports. I was sitting in front of the computer most of the day anyway. So whether I sat in an office in London or in the mountains, it didn't really make much difference. Yeah. So I wanted something that was good for my health and be more in tune with nature.
So has your team always been remotely working?
Yeah, well, we've all been remote. We've had Chelsea's based in Australia. So we were working with her time schedule. I have my manufacturers that are in China and their time schedule. I have Paul and Isabel and Sophia based in London, or now they're outside London in their homes, or some of them are in London. So everybody's scattered around a bit in different time zones. So that's been interesting.
Yeah.
It means emails start pinging in at 3:00 in the morning. Everyone just has to try and ignore them. Because when you wake up at 6 or 7, and then you start seeing all these emails in the inbox, you're desperate to go and answer them, but you then need a bit of self-discipline to sort of do your morning routine, so you get into a nice pace, a rhythm. Otherwise,
it does get a bit intense though, and overwhelming, and it's a bit difficult sometimes to understand at what point to switch off from the digital world entirely, though, don't you think?
For you to get as roped in and you're zoomed in into just this computer digital world. Yeah. And we know it's 8:00 or 9:00 in the evening, and you've done no exercise, and you've barely had time to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah.
So it's this thing of going to the office, I think it's actually a very good thing, because it gets you out of the house into routine, and then when you go home, you switch off. So So I'm really looking forward to everybody being together, and also the camaraderie around everybody being together is important.
Oh yeah.
So I'm missing my week or 2 weeks, and that I go to London and I spend time with my team and I properly see them.
Now let's talk about Dr. Lipp, the brand that you found 15 years ago. And first of all, thank you so much for sending in a ton of stuff. I absolutely love the Nipple Balm. It is so multifaceted, multi-purpose. I absolutely love it. And it only has 10 ingredients. It's vegan, it's sustainable. So with that in mind, can we talk about how and why you launched?
Right, that's right. So just to take it right from the beginning. So Dr. Lipp, I started that 15 years ago. Maybe it's a bit more now. Maybe it's 16 years now. With the one product, with the original Nipple Balm for dry skin, luscious lips, and glossy bit.
Yeah.
And it was something I essentially took out of the breastfeeding market and introduced into the beauty market because I wanted more people to know about it. I mean, basically, the idea came about simply because I had really bad eczema and really dry skin, and I tried everything and nothing worked. And one day, a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you try some Nipple Balm?" Which I did, and it worked amazingly. So I used to go around with a huge clunky tube of Nipple Balm, and everybody used to laugh hysterically. And I just thought more people should know about this. And then I started researching the ingredients and what was inside and why did it work. And I discovered that lanolin, which is the main ingredient of most nipple balms, not all of them, but some of them, was the original pillar of modern skincare, which was Nivea, which was started over 100 years ago. And Nivea was basically lanolin mixed with water. Then lanolin got expensive, and so they started substituting it with plant-based alternatives, which are never as good. And interestingly enough, scientists always say that they cannot reproduce anything as good as the original lanolin because it's so complicated. And this really fascinated me. And then when I realized women were using it on their nipples, obviously it had to be safe, otherwise you wouldn't be breastfeeding with it on. It had to work because if you are breastfeeding, it really, you do get cracked nipples and it really does hurt. And then I discovered a lot of hospitals would give it for patients that had all sorts of skin problems, but it increased and speeds up wound healing, and they often put it on the back of plasters to speed up the wound healing. So it's just got amazing qualities, and it's so versatile. And something I realized, gosh, skincare doesn't have to be that complicated. It can actually be quite simple, because at the end of the day, the main thing that people are suffering from are dry skin. And most wrinkles, most irritations, most problems with the skin, it starts off with dry skin. And the lanolin just is almost like a sci-fi material. It works on any skin type, of any age, whether you are 2 months old or 105 years old. And it's thick. So it's easier to be applied on sort of lips and bits and little areas, but the lanolin itself is just amazing, and the fact that it's originally historically been used as a nipple balm for like thousands of years just makes it funny, and I think it brings the point across that it's really safe and that it works. So that's how that started. If you remind me the rest of the question.
No, I mean, I was just asking how you got started, but
so that's how it started. Yeah, and then I thought, well, that's just the Nipple Balm has one ingredient, and it's really versatile, and you can use it for lots of different things. So now we're bringing out a product called BFF, Best Friend Forever, which has 2 ingredients, lanolin and coconut oil, and that will be the same kind of thing, but it's a moisturizer for everywhere. You can use it on your face, your hands, your body, your hair. I mean, anywhere. And it can be used on men, women. There's no perfume. There's no preservatives. It's totally clean and pure, 100% natural, not 99%. And I love that. And so it sort of reduces your beauty regime from having many creams to just a few, which I think today, in today's world, with the pollution levels, with trying to reduce the value chain, reducing the carbon footprint makes a lot of sense. And it reduces the amount of money you have to spend on creams. So it becomes a cheaper alternative that really works. So I'm really excited about this whole concept of how we're expanding the brand and what it stands for and what we are doing for our customers.
So one of the main reasons I really like Dr. Lipp is because it really locks in the moisture. So a lot of these products that I've tried, I've often found that I've applied them, and within 20 minutes later, either my lips are super dry or the product has just like completely just slid off my face. So with Dr. Lipp, it just really locks it in, and I think, I would say an easy few hours where my lips are literally just, they're glossy, they're moisturised, and it's like not really that transferable as well, which I quite like.
You're right, a lot of things just glide around and they skim around the surface, but this penetrates and stays and knocks in, like you said. And I've been using it on my face, my whole face, for about 5 or 6 years now. And I've never had as good skin since I started using Dr. Lipp all over my face.
Wow. Well, your skin does look really good.
One ingredient. But what I often do is I dilute it with an oil. And that's why we're bringing out the BFF, which is lanolin with coconut oil, which has lots of amazing properties too. And it's just brilliant. You know how very often you can put on a cream on your face, and even though you've got an oil or a cream on your face, you still feel dry. Yeah. But when you touch your face, it's not dry. It's obviously full of oil, but you still feel dry. You'll never get that feeling with Dr. Lipp. You will always feel like satisfied, like quenched, like you've drunk a liter of water and you don't need any more. So
I really quite like the idea of just sticking to a very simple skincare regime, minimal ingredients and minimal maintenance, because I genuinely think we just don't need all these different products on our face.
I think so. I think it means that then every ingredient is in high potency, as opposed to lots of ingredients in very small potency. And the other thing that's amazing with the lanolin, it's a little bit like Gore-Tex. It lets your skin breathe, whilst most plant oils don't allow your skin to breathe. So it's almost like it could be full of antioxidants and stuff, but it suffocates your skin a bit. So it's not getting the oxygen to it. It's not allowing it to breathe. When you cut yourself, they always say, give your wound some oxygen, some air. Take the plaster off at night so it can breathe. So important to give your skin air. So the lanolin is brilliant in that sense.
I think it's really awesome that you're so transparent as a brand as to what goes into the product that you're selling.
I think the main thing today is that people are being oversold and you don't know what to trust anymore. So I'm not a big believer in having some secret formula that nobody knows about and trying to protect that. In today's world, I think it's about communication and explaining honestly what it is that you are delivering so people can honestly buy something and be sure that what it says on the packet is what it's going to do. I think all these anti-wrinkle this and anti-wrinkle that don't really work just make people disheartened and lose trust in the brand because they don't really take away your wrinkles. At least I've never seen a cream that properly takes away your wrinkles. So by under-promising, I think, and telling the truth, I think you build trust and you've got to make people smile and have fun. I mean, at the end of the day, a good smile and a good laugh means so much to everybody. What do they say? They say once 5 minutes of smiling it boosts your immune system 25 times over what's 1 minute of being angry or something. I can't remember the exact statistics, but a good smile and honesty I think is what we need today, and that's what Dr. Lipp tries to do.
So you're quite a big fan of user-generated content by the looks of it. I've had a look at your social media platforms. Did you always plan the marketing strategy that way, or is it just something that just naturally rolled out when you started using social media to build more traction for the brand and brand awareness?
We love it when people show us how they use Dr. Lipp and, how they feel about Dr. Lipp. I mean, I personally feel that Dr. Lipp is my little saviour. And so I treat him as my hero. But we love it when people, it's because it's so versatile and it does so many different things. it's just really great to see people in their environments and who uses it and what they use, and they're not changing anything. Let's be natural about things. Let's be back to the honesty.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about everything, what's inside, who uses it, and what they look like. Yeah, enough of all of this editing or over editing, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I always find it really bizarre when brands use a filter on top of the product that they're selling, because I think if a product is that brilliant, why on earth would you put a filter on top of it? It just doesn't make any sense. And then on top of that, this need, this desire to be perfect, to be seen as beautiful is just, again, I just find it so absurd. The extreme lengths that especially young women go to with filters and Photoshop and all of these enhancement tools, it's just crazy to me. And hey, listen, that's not to say by any means that I haven't used any, filters and a little, skin touch up here and there, but to completely alter the way my face is just, to be seen as beautiful or by other people, it's just. But I guess again, it's maybe that comes with age and just living, and the fact that I really don't care about other people's approval of how I look. Their opinion is just completely irrelevant. I really truly believe that beauty is something that is so unique to each and every single one of us that it doesn't require any kind of approval or validation from anybody else but yourself.
One forgets that beauty often shines from within, right? So if we're constantly being over paranoid about how we look, we spend more time thinking about what we look like as opposed to actually feeling. And it's when you're feeling great. You could be 85 years old, full of wrinkles, and you can still look absolutely stunning and beautiful because you're sharing your joy. And we must. I think it's really good for us to start focusing a little bit more on that, and not just on how perfect we look.
Yeah.
Because looking like a perfect Barbie in this world doesn't. I think it makes it harder to relate to that person, and when you become harder to relate to because you're overly perfect, then you're actually distancing yourself as opposed to feeling closer.
And what's your take on influencer marketing and the power of influencer marketing?
I think influencer marketing is excellent. It brings a true reality to a product, and for us, that's that likes to talk about authenticity and honesty. Working with influencers that show their genuine feelings about your products and how they use it. I think it communicates a lot more than what an advertisement can do, which is pre-planned and thought out, and it becomes more authentic. So I'm a big fan of that, huge fan of that.
Yeah,
it's become more and more important in today's world as magazines and newspapers are dwindling, and influencers are becoming stronger and stronger, and have also a larger reach and a more personal relationship with their audience. So it's an amazing change that's actually happening. It's empowering the people.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Well,
Empowering anybody that sets themselves out to do it. It's amazing.
What do you think about the need for the transparency on the products that they're selling or being endorsed for?
It's a new changing world, and yes, a lot of influencers do get paid. And, but it's still they will always add their own personal touch to it.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to people wanting something more personal again. This is the world that we're living in. I think everybody's craving more personality, more real human reality, as opposed to things being rigged and by big organizations and us being fed information down a big chain, and it's one size fits all. So no, it's brilliant.
I do.
Brilliant. You see these amazing kids. I mean, they're also earning so much money, and they've got these incredible lifestyles. through the work that they're doing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how influencer marketing evolves over the next few years, if not decades. So you're stocked in Skinny Dip London, SpaceNK, a few other stores. Do you think you're going to open your own flagship store at some point?
I really hope not. No, I'd much rather be a lot stronger digitally.
Yeah.
And work with pharmacy chains and beauty chains and far chains and around the world where they manage the stores. My concept is never to have 100 SKUs in my line. I want to have as few SKUs as possible. I want to really streamline the proposition to the customers. I want to reduce the number of SKUs that we as humans are using, because I think that's better for the environment and better for us. And in order to do that, the store environment is not the right environment for us, because if I have 3 products that are the main, the bulk of your skincare regime, what am I going to do with a massive shop space? It's going to be half empty. So what I'd love to do is, we're now launching, the BFF, and then we'll launch a wash, which is a universal wash for everywhere, quite quickly afterwards. And that's all you need, really. So I'm really excited about bringing this concept. It's going to make traveling easier. Although traveling seems to be restricted at the moment, but it's just going to make our lifestyle, so much more simpler. They've already gone a bit crazy and a bit over manic. Yeah. Why do we have to have 16 products in our skincare routine? I counted mine the other day. What I used to use, and I was like, oh my god, I used to have 16 products. I can't believe it when I counting everything from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And what a waste is that?
Yeah.
Imagine 16 SKUs and the amount of rubbish that you're making from that, because you probably never finish a bottle, you lose a bottle, you get disheartened by halfway through because it doesn't do what it says. And they've all got at least 50 ingredients in it. I think we just got to start thinking a bit smarter about how we live and the balance between what we're using and how it's affecting our bodies.
Humanity needs to start looking at how we can preserve and protect our resources far much better than we already do right now, because they're not infinite.
And also, how about not using so many preservatives on our skin?
Yeah.
The food industry's come underneath a lot of criticism in the last few years with all the glyphosate or the pesticides that's been used in food manufacturing. And I think we've got to start thinking about our skincare too, as with our clothes, actually, using more organic materials and natural materials, because synthetic clothes are endocrine disruptors. If we're putting lead, like you find in very often in red lipsticks, or products with a lot of preservatives, that's going directly into your skin. It's going straight into your bloodstream, and that's not good for us. Not good for us. It's not good for the environment. So it's kind of one and the same thing, really, at the end of the day. So I think it's really healthy to start thinking in those terms. I'd much rather eat better quality food and less of it than tons of trash food. See what I mean? And I think the same concept goes for your skin. Why not, have fewer products that are really good quality and use less of it?
Any tips on how to maintain a healthy skin glow outside of skincare routines?
People forget how important to breathe properly is, and what air quality is like. To have proper good air quality, so you get great oxygen into your lungs and into your bloodstream, is hugely important for good life. And if you do all the healthy eating, good exercise, good breathing, don't fill yourself up with too many toxins, your skin will glow, your body will glow, your humor will glow. Everything glows. Yeah. Everything becomes very nice, happy, and easy.
So if we take that into a reflection of what we see of today, where it's all about that fast culture, fast living, no one really wants to invest in, say, their lifestyle, building a routine, feeling good long term. Everything's about now. It's all about the instant gratification, the idea that no one's willing to work at anything. And pretty much everyone and everything has just become so disposable and replaceable, if you will.
The mentality behind it has gone into disposable clothes, disposable homes, disposable friends, disposable husbands and boyfriends. I mean, where's this thing of where we actually try and connect everything and hold it together and make it work and compromise? That has to be the next generation. That has to be what we're working with. Then we have a sustainable and probably more satisfying, fulfilling life at the end of the day. So I think it works with 360 on everything, not just on skincare, but it's a 360 view on a whole lifestyle. And I love how, for example, traditionally you'd have old traditional costumes. You have them in Norway. I'm Norwegian originally. And it's called bunad. And they're all beautifully hand sewn. You wear the same one for every single special event, whether it's Christmas or a wedding, and then that beautiful costume comes out of the closet. I'm not saying that we have to do exactly the same the whole time, but there is something very nice about something that has had a lot of effort and a lot of love put into it that you cherish forever, and you don't change. You're still going to change around the time.
I really admire that. I admire anyone who really wants to actually take care of what they already have, as opposed to just being like, oh, it's slightly damaged, it's completely irreparable, oh, I must replace it. And so, but again, I think that really comes down to, education and really tapping into the resources that are available to learn about how to be a little bit more sustainable in your living and how you can be more consciously, environmentally aware. That's also equally very important.
I think you're absolutely right. And if one becomes a little bit more of what's going on inside of oneself, then one naturally becomes more aware, or wants to become more aware of what's happening around each other. I do a lot of yoga, and recently I did this Tibetan healing yoga course, which was super insightful, where they basically showed us how these Tibetan monks would live in minus 40 degrees in sandals and a little robe with an open shoulder, and they wouldn't get cold. So what they would do is they would use their breath and they use breath work actually in order to keep themselves warm. And for me, that was just such and to purify and keep their bodies healthy rather than taking pills. And for me, that was just such an extraordinary insight into what power we all have ourselves to do things. And that we've been led to believe that everything has to be bought or given to us, when actually there's a lot we can do ourselves, for ourselves and for everybody else. It kind of works all together somehow. You have to put it into the right environment with the right thoughts, and the right environment. And if we do that, the body is more likely to self-heal than not. So, this is a good thing that's happening in the world. It's a horrible thing what's happening in the world, but it's also a good thing. To create something new, you need to destroy. So
they do say that actually. That's interesting. Yeah. So
it's not pleasant,
no,
but it is the way it works.
Unfortunately, yeah. So just before we wrap this podcast up, which by the way has been so incredibly awesome, just having this opportunity to speak to you, what can we see from you next with the Dr. Lipp brand?
Building a capsule brand for a multi-use, 100%, not 99%, but 100% natural brand. And then the next thing that I'm really working hard on is trying to find compostable packaging, which is really difficult. But I'm pushing on every button that I can to make that happen. I think that will make a huge difference. So that's my next challenge after I've brought out the sort of the capsule range, if you like, of all you need, this multi-use all you need range.
I think it's definitely going to be really tough, but 100% impactful.
If you think about all the millions of tubes that are being used, that are consumed and used every year, and where do they go? It would make a huge difference, really a huge difference. So, and biodegradable is a step in the right direction, but it's not the same thing as compostable.
Pontine, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to me on the Be Your Own podcast. It's wet, it's windy, it's miserable outside, and it's Monday. This has been such a great start to the week. Thank you so much.
Well, you've been amazing to speak to too, and I'm so receptive to all my crazy ideas.
Thank you so much for listening. Please let us know what you think of the show. Don't forget you can find us on both Instagram and Twitter at BeYourOwnUK. Our email address is beyourown@beyourown.org, so make use of it and drop us an email with anything that you want to know. If you fancy reading pretty much all of the career navigation stuff we talk about here on the podcast, then head over to beyourown.org for exclusive content, interviews, tools and resources. And lastly, if you love the show, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, either on Stitcher, iTunes or Spotify. And that's it from me. See you next time.